We'll get going here in just 1 minute. All right. Good morning, everyone. Once again, my name is Justin Ruchis. I am the Attest Easy Consulting Manager here with DrFirst. And through a strategic partnership with Management Plus, we are excited to offer the Attest Easy Meaningful Use Consulting to you to help you navigate through meaningful use. Today's agenda, we'll be doing a meaningful use, overview, the meaningful use attestation process, the meaningful use audit, they are there, the practices dilemma, and then what is Attest Easy Consulting. So whether you're Medicare or Medicaid, you're going to have to collect structured data to attest at some point if you're going through meaningful use. For Medicare, the process is defined by the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, better known as CMS. It occurs in year 1 and beyond of using your EHR. This means that from the first year of attestation through the end, you're going to be collecting structured data that you're reporting to CMS to show compliance. If you're beginning meaningful use in 2014, you can see a maximum incentive of $24,000 over the course of 3 years. If you started last year, you are eligible for $39,000. If you are Medicaid, the process is defined by your state Medicaid agency. It occurs in year 2 and beyond of using your EHR, and the maximum incentive is over 6 years, and it totals $63,750. When I say it occurs in year 2 and beyond, the first stage of Medicaid meaningful use is showing that you have a certified technology in the office. You're not collecting structured data. This can be often the most tedious of processes because you're registering, you're submitting the Medicaid population, and then proof of purchase to the state, but the state registration differs from state to state. So who is eligible for meaningful use? Any EP can participate in the Medicare or Medicaid program. You have to select one. You cannot participate in both. If you did Medicare last year and you want to switch to Medicaid or vice versa, you have until the end of 2014 to make the decision. You can switch once, but once you switch, you're stuck with that program. So keep in mind, if you're going to Medicaid, that you're going to continually have that Medicaid population to be eligible. For Medicare, eligible providers are optometrists and ophthalmologists. For Medicaid, it's ophthalmologists. Although some optometrists do qualify for Medicaid in select states, it's not a nationwide acceptance. Then in order to receive the incentive, you must meet the minimum Medicaid or Medicare threshold. For Medicare this year, it's $16,000 in annual allowables. For Medicaid, you must have a 30% patient population for a 90-day period. If you are a registered pediatrician, you can see 20% Medicaid population, but you will receive a reduced incentive of 2/3. So what are some important dates for meaningful use? Well, they really revolve around Medicare attestations and Medicare providers. October 1st for first-year attesters is a key deadline because if you do not attest before October 1st for the first time, you will see a penalty starting in 2015. But if you do meet that deadline and complete your 90-day and attest no later than October 1st, you're going to be avoiding a 1% and 2% penalty while qualifying for incentives. If you are a non-first year attester, you're adhering to calendar quarter start dates. So whether you started January, April, or now in July, it's crucial to make sure that you are compliant whether you're stage 1 or stage 2 so that you can attest, since you only have technically 2 remaining, but if you didn't start July 1st, you have 1 remaining start date. If you're a first year tester and you do not hit that October 1st, you can start at any 90 days, but you will see a 1% payment adjustment starting in 2015. So what is the attestation process? First, you're demonstrating meaningful use. You understand the CMS requirements and submission process. Then you ensure your practice is adhering to appropriate meaningful use stage core and menu objectives. Meaning if you're stage 1, you're adhering to the 14 core, 5 menu. And if you're stage 2, it's 17 core and 3 selected menu. Then you attest. You configure and input clinical data into CMS reports. You submit your compliant core and menu objectives to CMS and or state Medicaid agencies. Then you submit CQM measures or clinical quality measures to CMS, and you complete a risk analysis. The risk analysis is the #1 reason for a failed audit because it's either incomplete, not completed at all, or they did not complete it during each reporting period. So what are some things you might not know about the meaningful use attestation process? The adopt, implement, upgrade process for your state. If you're unfamiliar and you're thinking that it's going to be a quick process, some states are a manual registration, meaning you mail your registration in, and it can take up to 60 days to be approved. Your state's process for submitting an immunization record. For optometry, ophthalmology, and retina, this isn't something that is going to be focused, but if you're filing an exclusion on this, you also have to file an exclusion on the other public health, which is syndromic surveillance in 2014. So keep that in mind. There's changes that have come from 2012, 2013, and now 2014 that you need to be aware of, even if you have attested in the past. How to select your menu objectives. In the past, you've been able to file for the exclusions. This year, you do have to file unstructured data before you can file an exclusion. So that's a change that will change workflow in some practices. What clinical quality measures your EHR is certified for. You must attest to certified clinical quality measures. What to do if the meaningful use dashboard is stating you're failing. Is that a crutch or a tool? Are you using that just to kind of monitor your progress? And if you do fail, where do you turn to make sure that you can get compliant? And then changes in 2014, stage 1 and stage 2. This is big because you really want to make sure that if you attested last year for stage 1, you're preparing for stage 2, but completing year 2 of stage 1, that you're adhering to the changes and regulations that are coming with stage 1. And if you're beginning stage 2, what does it mean to adhere to the 17 core and the 3 menu? So what is the audit? Meaningful use audit is something that you will see either Medicaid or Medicare. They are there. We've worked with multiple providers that have gone through the audit process. It's either post-payment or pre-payment. Post-payment can occur up to 6 years after the reporting period. So are you documenting, do you know what needs to be on file in order to satisfy an audit? Prepayment comes before you even receive your payment. They start to ask for additional pieces of information that is either supplied by you, the provider, or needs to be a document that is put together by the vendor. We do know 10% of all attestations are selected for an audit. It's a number that CMS came out with. They did state last year that 20% of all 2013 attestations could be subjected to an audit. They target suspicious and inconsistent data. If you have an objective that's supposed to be recording unique patients and another objective that's unique patients, but it's not calculating the same, that's going to trigger an audit. It could be workflow issues within the practice. So we help to identify that. Selected providers must submit documentation to validate the attestation, meaning you are notified by email. You must submit the documentation within 2 weeks to satisfy an audit. Do you know what is going to be required? Do you have the time during practice and after hours to get that documentation and take away from your practice? If you fail an audit, all incentives must go back. It's either 100% or nothing. You either pass the audit or you fail. There's no partial given. So what is a practice's dilemma when it comes to meaningful use? Small practices have fewer staff and resources to devote to meaningful use. The doctor is too busy during the day to focus on the changing policy and making sure everything is compliant. The office manager is often working with human resource issues, front office, and day-to-day operations of the office, and throwing meaningful use and adding another hat. Sometimes there's not enough hours in the day to be successful. Independent physicians struggle to keep up with revolving meaningful use rules. Remember, I stated that in 2012, 2013, and 2014, there have been changes to Stage 1 reporting. Meaningful use is causing some independent physicians to leave private practice, meaning they're taking hospital buyouts. They're not accepting Medicare or Medicaid, so they're not even eligible, or they're retiring because they don't think that meaningful use is achievable in their office. Meaningful use audits are confusing and time intensive. There's a reason they give you 2 weeks to collect the data, but it can be a simple process. So what is Attest Easy Consulting? The service includes 6 key components to ensure you receive your incentive check. A lot of people ask if there's a guarantee. There is no guarantee in meaningful use because it's going to be work that we put forth and the office puts forth, but we will let you know that if you follow the roadmap that we specialize for your office, there's no reason that you're not going to receive your incentive check and avoid those penalties. Attest Easy Consulting is meaningful use education. Whether you're just starting meaningful use or moving to Stage 2, we're going to prepare you for the changes in 2014, what we're going to focus on, meaning what are we going to collect structured data on within the EHR, and we're not going to focus on the exclusions. This is where we put forth a roadmap that is specialized to your provider's unique meaningful use situation. It's workflow optimization. Often it's a few tweaks in the workflow to make meaningful use easier to accomplish. Oftentimes it's the provider that is taking on 100% of the responsibilities. We're going to break that up and show them that they don't have to have 100% of the burden. This can be handled from the time a patient is checked in to taken back to the room to when the doctor sees them. So it's a workflow that makes sense to your office and allows meaningful use to be achieved without being a daunting task. Attestation assistance. We take you from registration to attestation. It is monitoring sessions every week during your reporting period with access to your consultant's email and phone to make sure that we're never out of reach if a question does come up. We take you through with a Excel document that has your structured data and lays out what we're filing exclusions for and shows your compliance right there. And then we walk you through via live GoToMeeting the meaningful use attestation submission process. So we're never out of reach. It is start to finish a complete reporting period. We also assist with the risk analysis. Once again, I did say this was the #1 reason for a failed audit. This is a pain point, so we take you through are documents that we walk you through and identify any gaps that might be there, or if there are no gaps, how to provide justification so that it will satisfy an audit if you are selected. Then we have audit support and archiving. Whether you are audited within the first year or 6 years later, we provide templates and the documentation with required screenshots needed to actually satisfy an audit so that you can rest assured that you're going to keep that incentive. We've gone through numerous audits. We also know the appeal process, so we are confident that we will get you through the audit as long as you follow the framework we lay out during the reporting period. Then it's Stage 2 guidance. Stage 2 offers a whole change. It could become in workflow and how you are calculating your thresholds. But what we will do is whether you're moving from Stage 1 to Stage 2 now, or you are going Stage 1, Year 2 this year, we're going to give you the guidance on how to meet Stage 2 compliance early so that there's no question whether you're going to be successful or not. We're also going to work in best practices to meet some of the patient engagement activities. So what makes us different? It's a tailored to your situation. As mentioned, the roadmap is tailored to your unique situation. Not all offices are going to meet meaningful use the same, and not all offices have the same amount of personnel. We tailor this to your needs. It's the power of one. You're going to work with the same consultant time in, time out to make sure you get a uniform message and that you understand that they are going to work with you on a level that makes sense for your office. It's an extension of your practice. Think of us as a remote employee that you bring on during that reporting period to meet meaningful use, to take advantage of the incentive, and avoid those penalties. Inclusive pricing. We don't charge you for additional hours. We don't charge you for the risk analysis, and there's no additional charge for audit support. We understand you want to make your dollar stretch as far as possible, so the price you pay up front is the price that you pay during the entirety of the reporting period, regardless if we spend 15 hours working and coaching or 25 hours. Then it's proven success. Our team has been working with providers to get them through meaningful use. We've been helping providers since 2011 achieve meaningful use, so we have a history in success. Our providers have capitalized on over $11 million in incentives to date. With that, I'm going to open it up to any questions that you might have, and you can always reach us at 866-263-6511, extension 3012, with any questions.
Justin, would you prefer that they type their questions, or do you want me to unmute them and then they can ask questions?
You can unmute them and allow them to ask questions.
Okay, so everyone should be able to ask questions, with the exception of if you're using a microphone and you don't have, if you're using speakers and don't have a microphone, you're not going to be able to ask questions unless you wanted to type the questions in. So I do have in the question screen,
yeah, if you have a question, feel free to read that.
Someone said, can they have a copy of this presentation? And someone else asked, what are the fees?
Great. So yes, we will be able to get you out a copy of this session so that you can review that at your pleasure or have the provider review that. And then for the 90-day reporting period, it is $1,495 per provider, and that is from start to finish. So it will be through the entirety of the reporting period. Right now it is crucial, if you're a first-year tester, that we meet that July 1st to October 1st to get you attested so you do not get those penalties. And then if you are a second year, we can get you attested before the holiday, but we can also work with you for that October 1st start as well.
All right, let's make sure. So again, everyone is unmuted, so if anybody has a question, feel free to ask. And if not, let me just see if there's any. That is all the questions that we have, and it doesn't sound like anybody's going to ask a question.
Well, I appreciate your guys' time today, and like I said, you guys can always reach us at 866-263-6511, extension 3012, and we can go into a little bit further detail, but there is still time for that July 1st start, so we can help you get compliant and achieve those incentives going into the holiday.